That's how it's done.
Radioactive Curry, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, especially our friends in India and around the world. This is part 2, continuing from last week, of the Hunt for Veerappan. Let's see, this was a Netflix production. 8 out of 10 on IMDb, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 97% like this show. The rise and fall of a dreaded smuggler whose bloody reign sparks a 20-year-long manhunt in South India. First episode date, August 4th, 2023, based on Veerappan. Cinematography, Monisha, Udit. We're going first names today. That was like Thyagarajan. 6 syllables. I gotta skip on that one. All right. Audience reviews. Hunt for Bravest Veerappan. It really caught my attention. It made me think about how sometimes it's important to see someone's true character. Veerappan, even though he might seem scary, he's actually liked by many people. He loved being in the forest and nature. Okay.
And killing it.
Hey,
yeah,
it grows back,
interesting.
man. It grows back. Okay?
It grows back.
Yeah, okay.
The Indians don't come.
The elephants he slaughtered.
They'll come back.
He single-handedly made the elephant population extinct in India.
Well, just in his part.
Yeah, he's that damn good. That to me, like when you write a movie, you know, like that part, like when every like action movie, when they're gonna talk about like Jason Statham before, you know, he fucking goes off and kills someone. He's like, he was an ex-Marine. He used to do this and that. That was like what I felt like this episode was setting us up for. It's like, he used to hunt elephants in the wild so good that there was no more elephants. And then they bring on, you know, the fucking cops coming after him, and in your head you're going like, come on, man, this guy ain't no cop's gonna survive in the jungle against this man. That's Rambo.
And they did it.
Especially when they could talk to the birds. Yeah, they couldn't just go out there with their chest puffed up talking about, I'm a cop, and not end up beheaded.
So what did you guys think after finally seeing the whole thing? Did you guys like, do you think he's a hero or do you think he's a villain?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess if you have to make it a black and white, I guess he's the villain because he did, like, you know, he broke the law, he killed people. It wasn't like it was in self-defense. You know what I mean? He just got angry about them being
the one guy I agree with you with. The guy he burnt and chopped up. That guy, I was like, that's going a little over the top. But
just a tad.
Yeah, just a smidge. But
it's hard because, like, I can relate with the whole, like, you know, the government's, like, laws aren't always, like, just and stuff, you know what I mean, and logical all the way through, and they use certain laws when it suits them. You know what I mean?
Well, what it was a strict narrative, and they didn't really talk about it too much in there. But it's basically there's several Indian guys at my work that I talk to about these shows, and then they give me recommendations and whatnot. And the guy who I talked to about for this one, he was like, "Oh, Veerappan's a hero to the people." He said, unless you're like snootily rich, unless you're like a Vanderpool or something like that, Veerappan's a hero for you because he was a lower caste system, because they have the caste system there. So he was a lower born person, but he was able to take care of his village and his people and his family and all of those things with the resources that were there. And he said, in the eyes of the people, he wasn't doing anything else that the rich people weren't doing, but the rich people had the clout to be able to pull permits and be able to exhaust the same resources. He said it was a little bit, the people aren't too stoked about the elephants, but once the elephants were all wiped out and he was doing the sandalwood, it wasn't as big of a deal to the people. But then he asked me this question. He said, like, if you've got children or family members. In your guys' case, you got some nephews, right? 2 nephews now?
Yes.
Or
Or no, what?
One nephew,
2 nieces.
2 nieces.
1 nephew, 2 nieces. Okay, so if something were to happen to one of your children, like any of my children, any of my many children, if someone were to be like, hey, in order to save your son, Nathan, you have to kill all the pigeons, I'd be like, well, where's my fucking pigeon spear? Like, when do I, all right? Where are all these, where are all said pigeons? You know, when do I start murdering? Like, where do I sign up on the endangered species creator fucking list? You know, where do I become when do pigeons become the next dodo? You know, I'd be all about that. And I think that most people would. You know, most people, when it's either you're keeping your family fed or some fucking animal in the jungle, they want to do it.
That was the beginning. That was at the beginning, and then after that, he decided to diversify his portfolio to like kidnapping and political.
90 fucking days, dude. 90 days, dude. Like that.
And he
Like that was.
kidnapped just like Joe Schmo down the street. Like he
kidnapped Robert De Niro.
Treasure.
Yeah, like that. No, that's like stealing our JFK Jr. and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like fucking like holding them hostage. And I was like the part that kept killing me was the time, how it kept like ticking. Like, you know, it'd be like 5 days, and then it was like 20 days. I was like, what do you mean? Wait, what happened to fucking in between the 20 days? And then, you know, tell a little story, and it goes 50 days. I'm like, 50 fucking days? Right. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and then what gets me is what got him. You know, it's always like tax evasion out here in the U.S. or, you know what I mean? You get pulled over by, you know, some cop because your tail light's out. He got it because he wanted to get eye surgery. You know what I mean? It's like,
no matter how good you are, like the one thing I've always said, like when I watch these documentaries, you know, like there's ones about like the greatest jewel thieves, and you know, like the fucking, you know, the Iceman, the man that was literally considered to be the biggest serial killer of all time, but because he did it for money and he was a hitman, he wasn't technically a serial killer, but he killed a shit ton of people, right? It's always one stupid thing. Like one stupid thing that gets him caught. My favorite one, dude, is in Canada. Kids, teenagers made counterfeit money, so much counterfeit money that you were not allowed to go in with $100 bill into a store and buy it. You had to go in there with like singles, like small bills to pay for things, because the market was flooded with counterfeit money. You know what caught them? A fucking pizza, a delivery pizza. They went to pay for the pizza. The thing got caught, and then they followed them up, got him caught because the kid wanted a fucking pizza. Smart enough to hide away from everything else, but the motherfucker wanted. Yeah,
but they brought the pizza to you.
Yeah. That's why I was like, shit, dude. Like I every time I think about doing something criminal, I just think of stories like that, and I go, nah, I'm good. My dumb ass will get caught like that. Like, no, I'm good.
You know, when I think of Veerappan, it's one of those things. You know, there are times when you sympathize with him, and there are times when you don't. But like, you know, I mentioned last week, because we'd only watched the first episode, that when he butchered that guy, I thought that was the part where he crossed the line into being a villain. And I found myself sympathizing with him more in the subsequent episodes. But the thing is that there's that point where he starts reading like Marx and Guevara and Castro and like, you know, Mao Zedong, and you're like, okay, he's a commie lunatic, first of all. And then, you know, he's engaged in this brutal campaign. The only thing is that the people he's fighting against, they're not very noble people themselves. You know, several times during the documentary, the filmmaker asks the police guys that he's interviewing, well, like, you know, what about this excessive force? And the guy's like, oh, well, some things were done or something like this. And I was like, what? The
thing though that we talked about on the last episode is that we're pretty familiar with how the Indian police will just beat the shit out of you until you confess.
Right, because of the films we've watched, it's apparent that that's where, you know, that's a reality over there. It's quickly becoming a reality over here too, for that matter. But
hey man, someone strings me up and tries to put my nipples in fucking nuts and some electrical shit like they did to his wife. Oh, people are dying. You will see me wearing a fucking skull on my chest, and I'm gonna be running around punishing fucking people. Dude, I promise you that. Dude, I promise you that. When that part came up in the documentary, I like dropped my drink. I was like, oh shit.
yeah, she said they broke her knees and everything. I was like, damn, dude. They went to town. And they had that torture facility set up, you know, where they could bring people in and just rake them over the coals. Man.
The one that got me,
she did say all those things, but she's free enough to be able to chill out, walk around the village, and talk on a documentary. Like,
true.
But I love the build up. The thing that got me, and again, what I love about it, it's a true story. You know what I mean? Like, so this isn't like a guy that wrote a story and this is what happened, but it's the build up. Like, okay, well, let's send in 10 guys after him, and he wipes them all out. All right, get these other 20, and we're going to run in there and get him. And he wipes them out. The 30 wipes them out. And then he goes, fucking get a bomb and just throw it in there, and we're going to blow the whole fucking area up, you know, and hopefully we get the guy. And then they still don't get him. I was like, yes, this guy is awesome, dude. Like, I was looking at it like that. Like, I look at him as a hero. And, like, Liz, you're right. And Jaden, you're right, too. Like, I think, like, it's two bad guys going at each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's two villains fighting, but he's just not as bad as these guys. So he's the one we're going to root for. You know what I mean? Like,
he's the underdog, and we have,
right.
You know, I think in our culture, and probably in Indian culture too, we both have a passion and a love for the underdog, because I think that's how both of our nations really kind of came into existence, was by fighting against the colonial power that was Britain, you know?
Yeah. So I love, I enjoyed it, but I do see, you know, the bad, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't, you know, he was a bad guy. Like, he did do some fucked up things, but, like, you know, I think it was something that needed to be done, and he did it. But, like, even down to the hostage situation, he had this long laundry list of shit, and by the time it came down, it was like one thing. So, he's like, just give me something, and I'll give this guy back. I swear to you.
Well, that's because he was used by the political, like, or the rebels, or whatever the hell you want to call them. The what was it? The Tam, I don't know. There was like the two.
Organization that he wanted to make contact with.
Well, he was part of that group, and
the ones that were in Sri Lanka, right?
They're like, oh, well, he's got all of this. Like, he's got the voice of the people, and he's got people's attention. Let's use him to further our cause.
Right.
So he kind of got sucked in.
Yeah, they tried to hitch the commie wagon to what he was doing.
Exactly.
And that was another example, and I mentioned it last week, how you can see in the story of Veerappan and all of the angles on it, how a lot of these things pop up in some of the films that we've watched. I keep returning to what was it? KGF, the Goldfields movie with the Indian Viking guy. But, like, remember in that movie, the main character was trying to reach out to like other like insurgent organizations to make deals with them, and he even goes
Rocky.
Rocky. That's right, Rocky. Yeah, so like I just, like, there were like things that would happen in this movie, and I'm like, I wonder if this is where they're pulling some of these ideas from, is from this story, you know?
I felt that too watching it. I was like, oh, this is kind of like this, and this is kind of like that. But I was like, but in my head, I'm like, they should just make this movie. Like, this is a fucking, like you could make this movie here in the States and people would love it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a great fucking story, dude. Like, it's Rambo. I'm telling you. It's all I kept thinking. Like, I was like, it's fucking Rambo, dude. He just needs to pull out that big ass knife and start fucking people up with it and shit. But he didn't do it.
Yeah. definitely a fascinating story. I can see how he can become like a folk hero, kind of in the same way that D.B. Cooper has for us, or even Marvin Heemeyer, the Killdozer guy.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, me too. My heart always goes out to him every time the anniversary of the event takes place. I'm like, oh, Heemeyer. Anyway, these guys were criminals after a fashion, but they were, well, I mean, D.B. Cooper was just a robber and a hijacker, but Heemeyer was actually fighting against a corrupt system in the small town that he was in, and he did it in a pretty spectacular sort of way. So, definitely there's sympathies there. It's just, when you kind of wipe away all the things that you're sympathetic for, and you're like, oh, he wiped out all the elephants, he butchered these dudes, he's, blowing up policemen like left and right, and he's a commie. And you're like, okay, he's a turd.
Well, I mean, it goes for anything like we've talked about before about the first rule of storytelling. Your hero can be a killer, if anything, but he's got to save a cat. You know what I mean? Like we have to find some sort of humanity to it. So when you hear a story like this, he's doing these horrible things, but you understand, like it's like the reasoning behind it. You know what I mean? Like, is he just a nutball that's just running around fucking killing people? He's like, no, somebody pushed him to this limit, and now he's gone so far that he can't go back. And so now he's going to take it the full way. So that's why, again, I kind of consider him a hero, because he went the whole distance. I wouldn't have been. As soon as I saw people like dying around me and shit like that, like I'd give up. I'd be like, you know what, dude, this is not worth it, dude. Like, I don't want to have that on my conscience and shit that I killed these people.
And that was one of the things that we were doing when we were watching it too, is we were kind of like comparing him to like some of the serial killers that we have in this country and stuff like that, the ones with high body counts, and you're like, yeah, but the thing is that Veerappan isn't like deranged. You know what I mean?
He doesn't have their fingers on a necklace.
Right.
He's got the skull as a fucking souvenir, though.
Of the one guy.
Yeah, well, the one guy. But but the thing is that like he's not like what's the killer clown guy? I forget. Gacy. Yeah. Gacy. So these people are like disturbed, like really like demented, and Veerappan's not demented. He's just like he's on a vengeance tour, And
so
I sympathize with that. So,
so there we have it. Part 2, Hunt for Veerappan. I hope you guys liked it. If you get a chance, check it out. It's on Netflix. And if you like what we're doing here, please click down below. Give us a follow. Give us a sub. We're only 35 watch hours away from getting our monetization email. I'm excited about that. Might help me to find some motivation. Make some more long form stuff. So let's get in. How spicy was the Hunt for Veerappan?
It was a good documentary. The way that they played it out, and they didn't drag it out, but it was enough to keep you interested in each episode to see where the next step was. I liked it. It's an 8. I mean, with documentaries, it's kind of hard to like.
Yeah, I mean, we can't use the bucket system on this.
Yeah,
so,
that's the thing is that, I mean, I guess an 8. I mean, it was good, and it's worth watching if you're trying to like, get a feel or an idea about like what happens in other like countries. I mean, I've been watching on Netflix a lot of serial killers too, from like, India and China and Japan and things like that. It's very interesting. They grow them just crazy over there when they need to, but Veerappan wasn't crazy. he was purposeful. He was, it was good. I recommend it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 7. I think it could have been shortened in some ways, and I think that the documentary suffers in some way because in the beginning there wasn't a lot of footage of Veerappan, or what you were just dealing with that constant like black and white grainy image of him with his big handlebar mustache and everything like that, and you're kind of like, well, what's going on with him? And only later once that other reporter makes contact with him, then you start getting film footage of like what's going on, so it kind of picks up a little bit.
Yeah, once he thinks he's cool, it burns everything.
Right. So, and that's
Vanity.
the thing. It has kind of like a slow start, so I'm going to give it like a 7.
I'm with you. I want to give it a 7. It wasn't bad. I recommend people watch it, but it had some fast points, and it had some points where it was dragging a bit.
Yeah.
And I had to do my wait. I woke up. I'm watching the show. I'm gonna have to rewind it back to what I remember. That did happen 2 times in the 4 hours. So,
well, and I want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, the filmmaker, because he did say that this was his first run at investigative journalism. So, given that it's his first time out, it's pretty good.
yeah, 7's a good score, I think. Fuzz.
I'm gonna give it a 6, but with the fuzz points of 2 to bring it to an 8, because number 1, he's fucking the Indian Rambo, ladies and gentlemen. I want that shirt, Indian Rambo, his name right there. I want his mustache handlebar shadow on my shirt. I will sport the fuck out of that shirt. And on top of it, I love folklore. It's part of the reason why I'm a storyteller. You know what I mean? And this was a great fucking story. It inspired me in so many ways. Of just hearing some of the stuff. So because of that, I gave it an extra point. So I'm giving it an 8. I'm with Liz on this one. It's an 8. It is a documentary, but please check it out, dude. I promise you won't regret it, and you learn something while you're entertained. So that's why I'm always for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna be trying something new next week. I'm not gonna announce it here. You're gonna have to tune in next week to see. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share us with your friends.
Oh man, is this Swords and Sandals again? God.
No. Take us out, Fuzz. No swords.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us. Tell us some good stuff to watch. We love you guys. Have some love, some peace, and that Popeye's grease, ladies and gentlemen. We out. Peace.
உன்னை காக்க யாரு இது காடு பதறாத